What's up, Candy Lickers? Pleased to meet you. Nice to know me. What you doing? You listening to another edition of Casio's Cut.
Hey kid, look at me. Let's burn down the school with gasoline. Say hell yeah. Hell yeah. Say white trash. White trash. Hey kid, it's party time. We're kicking out the jams like the MC5. That's the way I wanna be. I'll be a white trash superstar. That's the way I wanna be. I'll be a white trash superstar.
Thank you, everybody, for tuning in again. We got a fun one for you today as we air this live. It is October in 2019, and boom, we are going to turn the page. I have a very special as we gear up towards Halloween. I'm going to talk to a medium in the paranormal world. Some people mention psychics, but a medium, and her name is Cindy Kaza, and I got a chance to talk to her after her show in Huntsville where she did live readings on stage with the crowd. So we'll talk to her in just a second. Just always want to get our info out there. Make sure you follow us on social media. Casio's Cut on YouTube. Make sure you hit the subscribe button and like our videos as we get them up as fast as possible. Also, I want to thank my recent guest, Conrad Thompson, for the State of Wrestling. I want to thank Jimbo Wood for introducing hashtag Bankwalker. Bankwalker. All the people that like to walk on the bank for a little bit when you go skinny dipping at the river. They walk on the bank just a little bit longer than everybody else, because they want you to soak it in. We know who you are, bank walkers. So we've got a lot of feedback off of that one as well. And just a reminder, we're about to come up on a very special Halloween P.O. Box episode as well. So make sure you get your anything you want sent to us at our P.O. Box. So get your packages in, your letters in, your notes of wisdom, your notes of encouragement, your hate mail. Doesn't matter, whatever it is. You can send it to Casio's Cut, P.O. Box 19065, Huntsville, Alabama 35804. That's Casio's Cut, P.O. Box 19065, Huntsville, Alabama 35804. Follow us on social media at Casio's Cut on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Also, you can type in at the Casio Kid while you're over there if you have not done so already. At the Casio Kid, that's my personal account. That's got everything that's going on in the world. My Rocket 95 radio folks are there. Stand-up comedy folks are there. All that is on the social medias. At Casio Cut, at the Casio Kid. Also, had some DMs there on the Twitter feed, so I might want to put it out here as well. If you want to be a part of this show, if you are listening and want to be a sponsor, get that involved. We can get you a mention right here on the show. So DM me there at Casio's Cut, or you can DM me at the Casio's Kid. Whatever social media platform you are on, you can message me, and we can get you a part of the show. So without further ado, let's go backstage where we're at right now with medium Cindy Kaza here in Huntsville, Alabama.
What's up?
So we got a lot of questions for the people that are already listening. One, the difference in medium and psychic.
Oh, I love that question.
Okay.
So psychics pick up on past, present, and future. Mediums talk to dead people.
Well, that was very clear cut.
Yeah, mediums.
They're very clear cut.
Well, it's the
separation.
truth. That's what it is. Medium. So all mediums are psychic. Not all psychics have the same level of mediumistic ability. But yeah, that's the difference.
So you're a medium. So you're not going. You've never went, I can see the future.
I have had that.
Okay. But okay, so is it the way you're getting your information that's different, or what? How are you getting different future readings than quote unquote a psychic?
Well,
I mean, what's happening there?
So when I'm doing my live events, like tonight,
Yes, you're doing a live event at Stand Up Live in Huntsville.
So that's all mediumship. I'm bringing through people's loved ones who have passed away. But
Right.
Sometimes some psychic stuff comes in. So if you hear me saying, like, I'm linked in with somebody, you saw some of the show, right?
Yes.
So if I'm bringing through a message and I'm talking to somebody's dad who died, and then suddenly I go into, oh, I see you buying this house. And they're like, yeah, I'm buying a house. That's psychic, right? So sometimes they dip back and forth, but also sometimes the person on the other side is telling me things about the person's life that's alive. So It could be both.
All right, so you're doing a live show, this is very fascinating to me.
Right.
Because, one, you're putting yourself out there.
Yeah.
You have to be... being a comedian and doing these different comedy clubs, if you're being a comedian, the same deal. You have to be confident in your ability to... I'm going and putting myself out there. So you're going out and doing these live shows, you're putting yourself out there. How did you make that transition of... Well, maybe we should back up. Maybe we should get into perspective here on a little timeline. When does it start, hey, and I'm sure when you first start getting the communication, how old were you maybe? Let's do that.
Well, the first experience I can remember having was when I was 10 or 11, around that age. There was a girl that died that I knew. She died, she was in elementary school. I mean, she died in a car accident. And after she died, I woke up in the middle of the night to seeing her standing directly by my bed, like the Sixth Sense, right?
Really?
So that was really scary. And then, but as I was a kid, so I saw it, right? And then for a long time, I thought it was like I had imagined it or it was a dream.
A nightmare or something?
Yeah, but it never went away. Like that memory was so vivid throughout my entire life. It was so vivid. But, you know, you don't understand those things when you're a kid. And so I continued to have experiences where I would know when things were going to happen before they did. I was super sensitive. I could feel other people's emotions. I just knew things. And how does a kid know things like that?
Right.
And it created a lot of anxiety for me. And children are super open and super intuitive. And just adding on to all of this, everybody has this ability to a degree. Everybody has an intuition. So mediumship is just an extension of the intuition. And I make it a point to say that at every event that I do, because people give mediums and psychics a lot of crap because they kind of accuse us of thinking, oh, you know everything, you're all knowing. It's like, no, we all have this innate ability to a degree. Like, part of my job working in the public is to talk about it. And when I ask at the beginning of all of my shows, how many of you have had an experience with your loved one on the other side? It's like 90%. Mm-hmm. And working in comedy clubs for me is awesome because I'm catering to an entirely different demographic. I'm not preaching to the converted necessarily. I have a lot of skeptics in my audiences, and I don't care. I love skeptics.
Well, that was going to be my question. How do you, putting yourself out there like that, it's different maybe from a comedy club. If they're coming to a comedy club to see a comedian, deep down inside they're coming to laugh. Now, whether they go, I'm going to judge this guy, maybe he's not going to be funny. But coming to see you, I think one of my questions were, do you get people, maybe they come with maybe a spouse or something, but you've got to have whatever word you use, skeptics or non-believers or whatever you call it. They've got to be in the crowd.
They are at every event, and I'm okay with that. I think people should be skeptical. And the other thing is, because if I'm doing my job correctly, and I'm bringing through messages, which I should be doing as a medium, right? I'm never going to turn every skeptic into a believer, but you can crack the door a little bit. There are hardcore skeptics that will always accuse us of cold reading or whatever. I mean, I've had people come to my shows, hardcore skeptics, that I could have the best event and go to people in the audience and say things there's no humanly possible way I could know. Like, how am I going to, I think you were there for the last reading where I'm going to this woman about the kid who commits suicide, who drew superhero comics. The mom's got the comic tattooed on the arm. Like, how do I know that? Right? How am I I'm not making that up. But I've had people come to shows like that and walk away and accuse me of Googling people or getting an email list. I'm like, but that's part of it. There's going to be people that no matter how much in your integrity you're working or how much you bring through that's correct, they're going to walk away saying they don't believe. So my job is to not focus on that stuff. It's to bring healing to people that have come to my event. That's the place where I work from, you know? Yeah.
You're talking to so watching your show, like you said, you do readings on stage, then you have a Q&A. There was a part of me, and I'm sure you feel it even magnified, because I feel like the majority of people in your crowd, you've came to my radio show before on past shows, and people in the office get excited when you come, and I hope she's going to read. I hope she's going to talk. I have a certain person I want to talk to, and I'm sure the majority of your crowd is, they're coming here going, I have somebody I want to talk to. I hope she picks me out.
Right.
I almost felt empathy for him, or feel bad. Maybe that's not the correct word, but I feel empathy for him and sad. Like, and you get to the end going, I'm sorry. You know, if tonight's not your night, that's got to be a. Does it? You feel pressure?
No, because I know when I'm doing these events, I just trust that whoever gets a message is just what was meant to be for tonight. And just to give an example of one of the readings, I don't know if you were here, if you were already here for this one. I went to this woman and I was hearing the name Chance. Did you hear that reading?
Yes.
Right.
But,
so the story, and this is where I'm going with how everything happens the way it's meant to be in the exact moment, because that Devin, the guy on the other side, came through to give a message to the kid Chance, and the woman in the audience had just seen Chance 2 days prior, and she hadn't seen him for several years. You can't make that up, right? So after doing this for so many years, I've just surrendered to whatever's meant to be is meant to be. Do I have empathy for people in the audience that didn't get a message? Absolutely. I definitely do. Because I feel their pain and I know they want messages, but I also trust that what's coming through in a night is meant to be.
right. You know, you did what you were supposed to do on stage. So you did your part of it. You can't get everybody in the.
No, but I do. I do have empathy because I know that people want to have messages, but right, you just do the best that you can.
Yeah, like I've seen people emotional going, it's going to happen. She's going to talk to somebody, a loved one or whatever, and then it doesn't happen, and it's almost like a disappointment, but that's not on your shoulders,
Right?
That's coming from the other side, right?
Right. And it's okay, right? It's just, and I always say, right, I make a point at the beginning of my events to say that if you don't get a message, it's not because your loved ones aren't here, because it's not that they're not there. It's just somebody else's turn in that particular moment. You know?
So when you're on stage doing a live event, and I heard you touch on it a little bit. What's coming at you? Are you hearing nothing but audio? Do you see things? What's coming at you when you're on that stage?
So the information comes to me in a few different ways. I hear, but it's like singing the words to your favorite song in your head. I feel, I see imagery. So it just depends on the message. Some are more hearing, some are more visual. So it can be tricky. It is like putting the pieces of a puzzle together sometimes. It's like Pictionary, charades, and telephone simultaneously.
Wow.
But that's how it works.
So is it? Can you be hearing? So you're hearing one thing and the imagery is different, or do they usually match? Like, can you?
No, they don't necessarily match.
So that's the puzzle you're trying to put together in front of everybody.
Right. So I'm trying to think of an example of one of the things that was at the event tonight where I was seeing there's that kid Rowdy that came through who died in the car accident, but then I was seeing somebody who was doing stitching work, making clothes and stitching. Did you hear? I don't know if you were there for that. So it was a little bit confusing at first because I was hearing the name Rowdy. I was seeing somebody doing all the stitching and making coats and jackets, and then I was seeing a car accident. So what it was is that Rowdy passed in the car accident, but somebody in the family, a woman who's alive, her job is doing stitch work for coats. But after the passing, somebody stitched together pieces of clothing from a family member that had died to make a blanket using all of their clothes.
Wow.
So that was tricky because I was trying to feel, well, what is going on? All these pieces are hitting me at once. It took me a second to understand what I was receiving. But some messages are super fast and clear. If I'm hearing more, it's much faster. But when you're getting hit with all the imagery and feeling and hearing at once, it can be a little bit confusing.
Is it? I'm sure you started with smaller groups, I know you do one-on-one sessions as well. Is it easier when there's a smaller crowd, or like does it amplify there's more people trying to get to you on a big crowd, or how is that different than one person compared to 300?
Yeah, I mean, it is a different energy when you have 300 people in a room. It's fun. I love the energy of a big group.
Right.
It just depends on the night. I mean, but as a medium, I should still be able to bring through one person at a time and get to one person in the audience. So it's just working. The energy is different to work with on a one-on-one, right? I'm sitting directly across from a person for an hour, and I'm able to really connect into just their life, their loved ones. But when you have an audience, you have to move faster because you can't spend an hour on one person. You have to spend 5 minutes on one person to get to as many people as you can.
So is it like when you're doing the live show, is it, I guess the only way to try to grasp it, is it like a press conference where you go next question and there's 1,000 people? You know what I mean? Is everybody's person trying to talk to you at the same time, or hey, now it's my turn?
The way that it works for me generally is I'll have one person, and then once I'm done with that message, the next person steps in, and then the next person steps in. So it feels fairly organized for the most part, but some nights it's chaotic where I've got people cutting each other off. So yeah, again, it depends on the night, because I did have one of my readings tonight where I had like 2 or 3 people from the same family all cutting each other off, and that was confusing. We found where we were going and got to it, but it's
no road's the same, basically.
Right. No event is ever the same. No event is ever the same.
All right. So you talk about maybe around age 10, you're getting your first vision of a schoolmate. Does it get more frequent as you start to get older? Is it sporadic and then it gets frequent? How does it progress as you age?
Well, children. So that experience where I actually saw her, it's like a full body apparition, that kids have that a lot more often than adults do. Children are very, very open. I can't tell you the number of times parents have come to me and said, guess what? My daughter, who's 5, saw my dad who died before she was born and knew exactly what he looked like. And there's no way, because she never met him. And then the parent will show the child the picture and say, well, which one was it? And the kid will go, that's who it is. You can't make that up, right? So children tend to have more of the full body apparition experiences, and from what I've learned, than adults. I don't have experiences that vivid now. Like I said, now it's more like feeling, hearing, sensing. Sometimes I can see them. But it's like I'm seeing. It's hard to explain. If you think of somebody in your mind right now that's on the other side.
Okay.
And think of that, and then project that image into a room, somewhere in the room. That's how I see it. It's coming from my third eye as opposed to me looking at you right now.
Right.
So it's just a different way of having the experience. So as I got older, it wound up being I'm an empath, so I could feel other people's emotions. Psychically, I would know when things were going to happen before they did. I had really lucid dreams, a lot of lucid dreams. It was more that my intuition was super, super heightened. And I also could feel people on the other side. But at that point, I didn't understand what was happening. So I kept trying to push my ability away because it created a lot of anxiety for me.
I mean, is it happening to strangers that you're passing, or friends and family that you go, like, how do you approach the first time where you're going, I feel like I need to tell you something?
I don't talk to people on the street and walk up to them and do that. I don't.
But what I'm saying is, are you passing people, or are you getting messages from the other side when you pass them?
I could if I stayed open all the time, but I don't. So I can control my ability. For the most part, I'm always a little bit more sensitive than the average person, right? But like, I don't walk around every day, all day, communicating with the other side.
Talk to me, right?
I could, but that's not a healthy place to live in. And I know people that do love living in that space, but it's super hard to be grounded. It's like, those are the people that walk around and they're like, don't worry, Spirit's got my back. I don't have to worry about it. And then they're like, oh, I forgot to pay my bill. I forgot to pay my phone bill, right? Because they're like so out of it. So those are the people, the airy fairy people. Like, they're just so ungrounded. And I mean, most of us don't live in that space because I have to be able to have
a normal
functioning life, right? Yeah.
So how do you transition to saying, this is what I need to do all the time?
Yeah, well, it was a process for me. It was slowly but surely. But the big wake up moment was, and I was sharing this story with you before about how I was doing a reading for somebody, and he had asked me for a reading, and I gave him the reading. I was doing it through sitting at home, and I had written out the reading on an email, and I sent it to him. He was a college professor of mine, right? And which was even crazy to begin with. That whole story, it's a long story. But in the reading, I kept hearing he has a problem with his heart. He's going to have a heart attack around Christmas. And I was like, oh man,
vivid.
It was
heart
very,
attack around Christmas.
yeah, it was very, very, very clear. And so, I was really conflicted. I was like, well, I have to say something. I can't, because I couldn't move past it. But then I was like, well, how do I say this? Because I don't want to scare this person. And this was when I was really still kind of stepping into it, So basically I just said, in the email, I really feel you should get your heart looked at. I'm not trying to scare you, but I just really feel like just go get it checked out. Right. So, and he did wind up passing away of a heart attack. He passed away. And,
how far after that?
It was December the 28th, I feel he died, right around that time. I think it's 27 or 28th.
And then you're emailing him when?
It was like 2 or 3 months before.
Okay.
Yeah. And so that was tough because I saw it. I did what I thought was right. I shared it with him, but he still passed away. But it taught me a lot of lessons. It taught me one, I'm not God. Like you can only, share your insights and but it was very hard for me because I don't like seeing that stuff. It's like, it was really, it sucked, but that was kind of a pivotal moment because at that time I was in school, and I thought that I was going to be pursuing something entirely different. Although I was still doing this work, I was doing readings, I was doing little events. I just didn't really think I would be doing it like a full time like I am now. I wasn't even sure how that was going to look. And after that happened, I did one more semester of school, and then I told myself, I said, I'm going to give myself a year to see what happens, and then I've never been back to school, and so much has happened. I mean, that was back in 2012. So I think around 2012. Yeah, I want to say about then.
So,
or was it 2010? I don't even know. It was a while back. I don't remember the date, the year, but yeah.
Do you know that he got the message?
Yeah, so that was the thing. When I sent him the email, he never responded to my email, and I was like, oh man, this guy thinks I'm nuts. Like he didn't say anything about the reading, and I was so
Not every day you get an email and somebody goes, you need to check your heart out.
Well, right, I know, but I was really like, I'm like insecure at the time, like, oh, he doesn't believe me, and this was in college. He was a college professor, right. So I was like, God, everybody thinks I'm nuts. So after he died, I was yelling at him on the other side. I'm like, you better show me you got my reading, because I was like so mad, like yelling at a dead man, And so then I got a call from the dean of the chemistry department, and this was a community college, it was a small school, but he called me because I had him for Gen Chem 1, so he already knew me, or Gen Chem 2, and so he was like, hey, I just want you to know that this teacher, he told us all about your reading, and he was talking about getting his heart looked at, and he didn't do it. He was going to, but I go, oh my gosh. I was like, I felt so bad because I didn't even know if he got my reading, and I thought he thought I was crazy. He's like, no, he told us all about your reading. So like now, like I say, I'm like an urban legend at the college because like I went back for like after he died, I still had to go back because it was, the next semester was after the holidays. And there were other professors coming up to me from the math and chemistry department like, oh, you're that girl who predicted his death. I'm like, oh, man, this is weird, like.
Are they wanting ratings now? Is that right?
Well, then this is all
don't tell me.
But get this, even all these years ago, this is actually crazy how this is coming in. This girl that I was in class with, we were in his class, the teacher that passed away, her name was Joanna. And she's now passed away. This is actually, I'm just now getting into a deep story. This is kind of crazy.
Bring it.
But we were in the same class together, and after he died, we were talking, and she had taken the semester after I left anatomy and physiology, and so she's sitting in the class, and her teacher was like, oh, there was this girl who predicted this teacher's death, and she was like, oh my God, that's my friend Cindy. Like, it's still circulating around the school, but tragically or fortunately, Joanna passed last year. And what was so, I guess it's kind of amazing in a sense, is that she knew what I did for work, and we were Facebook friends. So she was following my journey after I left school and all the things I was doing. And she was diagnosed with stage 4 lung cancer that had spread to her brain. And she Facebook messaged me, and she was like, she was telling me, she's like, I'm going to die. She's like, it's coming. And we had this really beautiful conversation, and she was sharing with me how much, she learned from watching my work and all of our experiences and helping people with loved ones who had died. And I was able to say to her, hey, guess what, Joanna, when you get there, come talk to me, because I'll be able to hear you and I'll talk to you. And we had a laugh, and it was like this beautiful kind of, it was, I don't know. That just brought that back. It was kind of a beautiful thing. Yeah.
Do you feel pressure getting these messages?
No.
No?
Pressure? I mean, I don't know. You mean pressure to get it right, or?
I mean,
pressure?
like, I would feel pressure if all of a sudden I get this message that somebody I knew was going to die.
That's hard, right? I don't like getting those messages.
Right. Okay. That maybe the pressure is not the good word, but just getting that message is okay. This is serious.
It is. Yeah, it's hard. I mean, and I'm mindful of how I deliver it, because again, like, I'm not God. I don't like predicting death, right? The experience I had with my teacher, that was really, really tough. But I'm cautious, because I believe that God's in charge of that. So if I see somebody being sick, right, or I sense there's something going on, the way that I approach it is, hey, look, like, I'm not a doctor. This is what I'm seeing. But I will never say you're going to die in this day or this month. I don't operate that way, because I've had situations where mediums have come to me. In one particular situation, my brother was not doing well, and this was years ago. This was in like 2009, I think. My brother was not doing well, and I was really worried about him. And so I'd asked a medium, if how's my brother doing? I'm just really worried that he's not going to live much longer. And the medium said to me, oh, your brother's going to die in August. This was 10 years ago. My brother's still alive.
Oh, no.
So I had to sit with that, like, and I felt the experience and how worried I was, and thinking my brother's dying in August. And I couldn't sleep. I felt sick to my stomach, and he's still here. And so I've learned so many lessons throughout the years of doing this work to be very cautious, because mediums can misinterpret, psychics misinterpret. We're not always right. And anybody who claims to be always right should not be doing this work. So it's just very, very important for us to be mindful, and even tapping into that a little bit more. It's sometimes frustrating doing this work, because people in the audience or people we're reading for expect, the pressure comes with people expecting us to get everything 100% on point. You better know this day and this time and this date. It's like, wow, if you understood how the information came in, you would probably be a little bit more gentle, because we're doing our best, right?
So do you think the medium that talked to you about your brother, is he just wrong? Is he just bullshitting? Or maybe do you tense up every August? What's happening? I mean, how do you process that
I let
with
all
the knowledge
that go.
you know?
I let all that go. I needed to have that experience personally to understand what saying something like that to somebody can feel like. And I know this medium, and I've seen him work, and he actually gets a lot of stuff right a lot of the time, right? I've seen him do some pretty amazing work, and
okay.
I don't dislike him. In that particular situation, he was incorrect, but and it can happen.
So you don't hold that against him?
I don't, because you know what? Look, it's I think that experience, I think everything that we experience in life, it's a moment to learn something. And that was more about me learning what not to do when giving a reading to somebody else. That was a lesson for me.
Do you ever talk to him about it?
My brother?
No, the other medium.
No, I haven't.
Just take it as a learning experience.
I just took it as a learning experience for myself, and I don't do that, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So you have this moment in school, and that was kind of your, like you said, your big awakening of, this is what I need to be doing.
Mm-hmm.
like you told yourself, I'm going to give myself a year from school. You haven't been back, which means, hey, that's what you were supposed to be doing. So how do the crowds start getting bigger? How do you make that transition of personal readings, maybe a small group, to how do you go, I need to take this thing on the road and go to clubs?
Well, it's interesting how the comedy club thing happens. This isn't something I ever would have planned for myself,
Right.
What happened was in 2013, I had a television pilot with a network, and I was signed to a production company and called Triage Entertainment, which is owned by Levity Entertainment. And the pilot never went to series, which is fine. But through that process, because Levity Entertainment Group owns the improv comedy clubs,
Okay.
they were like, oh, hey, well, you're already working with us. Why don't we just do one of your mediumship events in one of our clubs on an off night, like Sunday, Monday, Tuesday? I was like, oh, that sounds fun, right? Because it's everything's there. You have the microphones, the stage, people can come have dinner, people can have drinks. And it's not in competition with the comedy acts because the big ones are on the weekends and it's a special engagement. So the first event I ever did was at the Irvine Improv in Irvine, California, and it was super small. I mean, nobody knew who I was, and there weren't a lot of people there, so it was kind of a test run, right? And then I got a residency at Zany's in Nashville around the same year, and they gave me a monthly residency for about 4 years. Once a month, I did an event at Zany's.
And you saw it grow and grow
And
and
it
grow?
grew and it grew. And then I started working at other clubs. So it's spread by word of mouth. Because once the event started growing, then one manager would help reach out to another manager, to another manager. So it's taken me 6, almost 7 years. I've been, the last 4 years, I've lived out of a suitcase on the road. I mean, I've been on the road. And I love it. But it wasn't something that just was like bam overnight. I've worked my butt off.
All right.
And I love working in this environment because I think that people enjoy coming to a place where they can feel relaxed and come have a drink and come have some food. My tickets aren't, super high. People spend $20 and come out and hang out. And even Skeptics will. And that's why I enjoy it, because I'm catering to a different demographic of people.
Well, I think if you're a skeptic, this is an easier setting to go to than I'm going to as you see a sign for a house,
Like
or
a
whatever
metaphysical store
Right.
or a hotel conference room, right?
You're never going to walk in there if you're a skeptic.
And I see too, because my shows skew female, right? It just naturally, like, women seem to come to more events than men. But then in comedy clubs, I see a lot of women like bringing their husbands. The husbands are like, I'll come have a beer. I don't believe in
Let's
this
get out of the
crap. I
house."
don't believe in this, but I'll sit and have a beer, And so it's like bringing in a different group. And I ask at the beginning of every one of my shows, like, how many of you have never seen a medium before? And some shows, there's like 70%.
I've never seen a show.
I've never seen a medium. 70% at some shows. And that, to me, that's success. That's like awesome, because
That's exciting for you?
it's really exciting for me, because you're reaching a group of people that maybe would never go anywhere else to see a medium, and they're coming out to check it out, and that's awesome, right?
Yeah.
So-
No, it's fantastic. And because I thought it was interesting. I saw you advertised at Zany's, and then here, I believe it was a year or two, maybe two, here in Huntsville.
Wait, there's my name. It's 2017. That's when it
Okay,
opened.
so
Yep,
2 years.
2 years ago.
And I've worked with and know, being in the comedy club business as well, the hypnotists that travel around.
Yeah.
But they do a comedy show when they come to the comedy club.
Yeah.
Even though there's a serious side to hypnotism when they're at the comedy club. So when I saw a medium advertised, I'm like, well, this is not funny to play around
People
with.
get so confused.
I'm like, is there a comedy aspect? Is she going to be like, your uncle's telling me jokes?
No.
And so you came on and did our radio show in Huntsville, and you actually talked to listeners that called in, which is very amazing to me. But that's when I saw, hey, this is a serious show. The venue just happens to be a comedy club.
And that's right. And so people are confused by that because, and some people, even mediums in the community, they're like so pissed at me for working in comedy clubs. They got some slack for that because
Really?
they're like, oh, what are you doing? That's like not cool. You should be working in a more spiritual place. I'm like, well, actually, everywhere is a spiritual place. Okay. Like everywhere could be spiritual. But they were giving me a hard time because they thought it was inappropriate for me to be working in comedy clubs. And I was like, joke's on you, because people want to come to a place where they feel comfortable. And it's reaching a different demographic. And I understand it is confusing to see my name next to Bob. Like, my name's been next to Bob Saget on a billboard. I took a picture of that. It was like Cindy Kaza, Bob Saget. I'm like, this is weird.
Well, we're here in Huntsville. They just had Joel McHale. They have you. They're about to have Doug Sanhope and Sinbad.
Yeah.
So you're like right in the middle
it's crazy.
of that, which is pretty amazing in itself. But you've got to, hey, is this a comedy show? Is this a real show?
Yeah, people
and
are
everything?
super confused, but I'm okay with that. I've gotten okay with that, except now when you Google me, it says comedian. I'm like,
Really?
So no, like I'm kind of name dropping now, so forgive me.
Watch your toes. Here we go.
I'm gonna give a name drop, but so I'm friends with Dr. Drew, right?
Amazing.
And so I went to his 60th birthday party. It was in LA. And so they had like the step and repeat where you take a picture and they were taking pictures, and then the next day, Getty Images, where it says Getty Images. There I am. It says comedian Cindy Kaza attends Dr. Drew's 60th birthday party. I was like, oh crap! Like, how do I, And so, but I'm like, I'm just gonna go with it. I don't know. You can't like.
No, you're not gonna find it.
But literally, it said comedian Cindy Kaza. So now I'm like, God, people are really gonna start coming to my shows thinking I'm gonna be telling jokes. Like.
It was confusing for me the first time.
Yeah, it is.
And then meeting you in person and seeing you do what you do, you're like, this is a serious show. The people that are going... The interesting part to me, and when you talked about a lot of skeptics or a lot of people, it's their first time coming to a show. I work at a radio station. None of my coworkers ever mentioned, I want to talk to a medium. I want to go to the show. You don't talk about the paranormal. You come to town and everybody is going, are you going, right? I'm going. And you're like, where did all this come from?
Yeah.
But it's amazing that, it's, I don't know, you coming to the club made it cool or okay to talk about around the office place.
That's awesome.
And you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's great.
That was never mentioned in however long we've been working together. And then multiple coworkers I will be at that show tonight. And you're like, what? You are? This is your thing? They were all in. Everybody was gathered around listening to you on the radio. And I thought that was a very eye-opening moment for me of going to the comedy club is, like you said, it's kind of a different route, but I think it's opening more doors for the skeptics and the non-believers or maybe people's on the fence, and this is I think they go in going, I'm going to see if this is real or not.
And I'm okay with that.
Right.
And I'm totally okay with that. And I think, like I said, my job isn't to turn every skeptic into a believer. That's entirely impossible, and that's not why I do this work. But I love that people are becoming more open-minded to even come to the club. Like, when you have somebody saying, I'm super skeptical, and I'm like, awesome. Thank you for being open-minded to come sit here tonight.
Right, at least coming out here.
You're sitting here. That's pretty cool.
That showed a little bit of open-mindedness about it.
So, and then you get the occasional jerks. And I've had some people just come to they'll come pick apart my whole show. And I had a couple people actually recently come sit at one of my shows in California with the intention of, they were total non-believers. They left my show and did this podcast where they lied completely about my show, totally. I had the whole show video recorded. So, I mean, I'm like, God, was it really that rough? And I went back and watched it. I'm like, no.
So on their podcast, they just killed your show.
They just killed it. They killed it.
Piece by piece.
They just killed it because they wanted to kill it, right? They came in with the intention of killing it just because that's why they came. Right. And so no matter what I would have said that night, it wouldn't have mattered. They would have found something wrong.
Yeah.
And that happens too. But you know what? I'm okay with that too. It hurts a little bit because I know where my heart's coming from when I do my work. It hurts where people accuse me of like, oh, you just are trying to fool people intentionally. That hurts my feelings because that's not me. But I have to be tolerant of, if they're in the seat, they're in the seat. Be in the seat. Sit in the experience. Even if you're that, and I find sometimes people that can be that hurtful and resistant and out to just like dig at me. Hurt people. Like, you know?
Hurt people. That was a deep phrase there.
But it's true.
It is true. It makes sense.
Why? I mean, why do you like, right? It's hurt people.
No, it's the troll. It's the trolls on social media.
And that's it too.
What are you doing it for? I mean, something's going on with you personally.
Hurt people. And so I have really kind of tried to sit in a space in my life now where, okay, did that hurt my feelings a little bit? Yes. But if I operate from my heart and I look at it from that space, then I just say, you know what? I'm going to send that person love and send them healing or do the best that I can, because why else would somebody take the time to go after somebody with such such hate?
So they did theirs afterwards on their podcast. And so I was going to ask, one of the questions I wanted to ask is, because being on a comedy stage, every now and then you get a heckler. Maybe you're not their style of comedian. They don't think you're funny. That being a comedian is an art form, so maybe they don't think you're funny. So every now and then you get a heckler. Maybe it's innocent and they're just got a little too drunk and they think it's funny to be a part of the show. Or sometimes you're not their cup of tea and they just feel like they just want to ruin the show with them. Do you get hecklers?
Not very often. The only time I get people that are a little bit rowdy is when they're drinking too much. It's always when the alcohol is involved, honestly.
Well, that was very interesting. I was watching the crowd tonight. They're drinking, but it's not the comedy club.
Yeah, no,
We're
it's a
drinking,
totally
having
different
a party.
Yeah. But it can happen where people have gotten super, super wasted. And that's really the only time that I've had an issue, you know. It's rare. Knock on wood. I hope, you know, I just don't ever want to set that intention, right?
Next show's going to be a train wreck.
Next show's going to be like, oh, crap. But, you know, I also, as somebody that works on a stage, you have to be able to stand your ground and keep your audience in check, because if that crap gets out of hand, the whole event is ruined for everybody else.
Shark smelling blood, yeah.
Right? So I don't cower down. I'm like, really? Bring it. Because, you know, the door's right there. You know, it's I'm not afraid to stand my ground.
So let's touch on this before we get out of here. Now you're involved. You got a couple things going on the television. You've did some shows with the Jack Osborne show.
Yeah.
How was that?
It's awesome. I love Jack. He's my friend. He's a good pal. Yeah.
Did you know him before you did the show?
I did. Well, Jack and I met probably 4 years ago, almost 5 years ago. Jack and I met.
Okay.
And we met because I was talking to him about he was going to work on a project with me when I was going out to do a TV thing. So our show never worked out. We became friends. I was on Ozzy and Jack's World Detour. I did a reading for Ozzy, and then I wound up being on 2 episodes of Jack's new show, which is a paranormal show. Jack's always been super into paranormal and stuff. People give him crap, but he just genuinely is intrigued by the supernatural. So his show is called Portals to Hell. It's on the Travel Channel. It's a little bit, it's spooky a little bit. So I did 2 episodes of his show, season 1. I'm going to be on 3 or 4 of season 2. But I have my own show that just premiered last Thursday on the Travel Channel.
The Holzer Files.
The Holzer Files, and it's really, really cool. The concept is cool, right? Because the paranormal world I was always kind of on the fence about would I do a paranormal show, would I not? And I really do love it now. I'm glad I did it. But the concept is really cool because the production company that I signed with has an agreement with the Holzer family. Hans Holzer is really the grandfather of paranormal investigation. He's one of the most famous paranormal investigators of all time. He's now passed away. But he started doing paranormal research in the 1940s, 50s, 60s. And he's done thousands of cases. He did the Amityville case, and he's been all over the world. And what's so amazing about him is not only is he into paranormal, but he's also an intellect. He has a PhD, so he's Dr. Hans Holzer. And he also believed in mediums. He loved mediums. And you'll find a lot of the paranormal shows nowadays, they don't use mediums that much. They're starting to use them more. But he was a big advocate for mediums, and he always brought mediums with him on his cases. So he would film and audio record and write notes. He was really, really meticulous in taking notes about his cases. So the production company has all of these old files, videos, audio recordings that the public has never seen. So now we're going back and reinvestigating cases that he had done in the 40s, 50s, and 60s and seeing, is the place still active? Am I as a medium going in? And I didn't have any prior, access to these files. I went in blind. Am I picking up the same things that the mediums from the 40s, 50s, and 60s were picking up on? Is there still activity? It's cool. It's such a different kind of paranormal show. It's not what you're used to seeing on these shows. So I'm really proud to be a part of it. It's pretty cool.
So if they're listening to this now, where is that? When is it? How can they access this show?
It's the Holzer Files. It's on the Travel Channel. Thursdays at 10 p.m. Eastern Time. If you don't have cable, you can stream it on Hulu, Amazon Prime. There's a Travel Channel app that you can watch it on too. We filmed 10 episodes, and we're hoping for a season 2. So check it out. It's a fun show.
It's interesting going in, like you said, you see all these paranormal shows, the ghost hunters and the investigators, and they're going to different places. It is interesting that no mediums are involved in most of these shows.
And it's like why I don't know what the deal is with that, but it's changing because now in the Travel Channel's gone super paranormal. A lot of their shows are paranormal now. So you're starting to see more mediums on these shows because it always baffled me too. I'm like, why aren't they bringing a medium into these shows?
But is that just for the show? Is there there's not like a real life riff in between paranormal investigators and mediums, right?
I mean,
or is there?
No, there's not really a riff, but some of them just don't really care to use us very much. I wouldn't call it a riff.
For a specific reason? I mean, are they like...
I don't know. They like their gadgets. They like gadgets. Like, their whole thing is they like... So, and I can understand where they're coming from, because when a medium comes in, we're getting things that you can't see, right? We're
physical...
You can't... They want physical...
Grasping, yeah.
Right? Evidence.
EVPs and all the
thermals. And what... Great, because that is, like, valuable evidence, right?
Right.
But what I think is so cool about combining the two things is what's happening in the show that I'm on is I'm tapping into something at the same time, and then all of a sudden the technology is going off. So you're seeing both things happening simultaneously. Or I'm saying, turn on the AVP, let it run for 5 minutes, play it back, and then there's a clear Class A EVP.
So maybe answer some of the things they're getting.
Right.
Maybe, they're just getting maybe some clues or some small fragments. You might be getting a bigger picture. It's very interesting how it goes hand in hand.
Well, yeah, because, and then like the science people, they want the quantitative, right? Quantitative data, right? And I get it, because it is valuable to say, hey, look, this happened. This energetically changed. We can see it in the numbers. We caught it on a camera. I get it. But to combine the two, I think is brilliant, because a lot of times you'll see the medium getting something at the same time they're getting something, and it matches. It's cool.
It's a good moment, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a fun moment.
I've never had, I would say I never had a medium or, somebody speaking to me. But you said it earlier, we all have it to an extent. It's whether you're ready for that or know how to interpret or whatever. I had one paranormal experience to this day when people ask me my scariest moment is we went on a quote-unquote ghost hunt. We went to a place that was supposedly haunted. It was a mental institution in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. It's closed now. It's been closed for 40 years.
Yeah.
The building's still there, and everybody that goes, say they get readings and EVPs and whatever they go down there for, they get. And I went pretty much skeptical. Hey, I'm just wanted to be involved, something to do, or having fun. before we left, we did, it's like 3 levels of this place, and I just got, for lack of a better word, a creepy feel about it. Of course, walking around, and here's the kids unit, and here's, this was, different sections of it. You're like, yeah, it's a creepy place, but I didn't really feel anything. But before I left the property, we were about to leave, and a landline phone was distinct ringing. And it was a moment where you look around and go, this was before cell phones are really prevalent, so it's not like you automatically assume somebody's got a cell phone. Anyway, we heard a phone and decided to figure out where the phone was coming from. Tracked it to the 2nd floor, and literally I could hear it. Hey, it's coming on the other side of this door. We could hear it coming from the other side of the door. And we opened the door, and it is a padded cell with nothing in there.
Yeah.
It was a padded room. And then to find out that place it doesn't have power. There's nothing like a phone. Like, if we couldn't be mishearing it from another place. It doesn't have power. It doesn't have phone lines. It's been shut down. And they wanted to stick around and see it. I said, no, I'm out. I wasn't ready for that mentally. But that's the closest I've had to that I distinctly remember, skeptic or not. I don't know what that was, but it was something.
You can't explain it.
Right. It was something. I don't know what it was.
You can't explain it.
That was my closest, where I think it was a moment, though, as being a young man, where you're like, I don't really know how to comprehend a lot of it, but there's something else going on there. There's another level there.
Yeah, because it's
of something going on.
It's there, right?
So I think it's amazing. You had a moment, like you said, with the teacher, of taking that moment and going, I need to build on this. This is something that is calling me personally, a calling, so to speak.
Yeah.
Do you ever get scared? Do you ever have something that comes through where you get scared, or are you kind of, that's your mindset? I can grasp this and figure out how to process it now.
Yeah, I'm never, I've had things that have made me uncomfortable or freaks me out a little bit, but I'm never scared to the point where I feel like I can't handle it. It hasn't happened yet.
Right.
But there are some things that are uncomfortable, that are unnerving. You're like, I don't really like the way that feels. I don't like it. But, I don't know. I trust. I believe in God. Like, I always talk about my belief in God, and I just trust that, God's got my back. Until I have a different experience where I feel like something's taken me over, I'm just going to stick to that. I don't live in fear. That's what I'm trying to say. I don't live in fear around anything on the other side. I'm entirely more afraid of people in the living than I am of people on the other side, quite frankly, right? Yeah.
All right, so tell them how they can follow you, social media, all that good stuff. I know right now you're not doing personal readings, but you have done those before. I'm sure at some point you will do them again.
Yeah, I probably will, and who knows when, but yes, I will be doing them again.
Let them know how they can keep in touch with you or find out more about you.
My social media, Medium Cindy Kaza. I'm on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook.
Kaza is Kaza.
Kaza. And then my website is mediumcindykaza.com.
And that's got all your tour dates.
That has all my tour dates, yep.
Traveling nonstop, find her on television. Thank you so much.
Oh, thanks for having me. It was a pleasure.
We're after a show, so I know how that is.
Yeah, no,
you
it's
gotta get
cool.
on the road, so I appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me. It was awesome talking to you.
Want to hear more of Casio in between podcast episodes? You can listen to the Jimbo and Casio Morning Show live 6 to 10 a.m. Central on TheRocket951.com.
And last but not least, Jimbo.
Yep.
Slugs have 4 noses.
What? I have one question.
Slugs have 4
What
noses.
do slugs have to smell? They crawl on anything. They don't care what it smells like.
Not salt. They cannot smell salt.
That's a fact.
They didn't see it coming.
That is a fact.
Hey, look, it's snowing. Why does it sting?
Listen live online or download the Rocket app for your tablet or smartphone. Just search WRTT Rocket 95.1 in the Apple or Google Play Store.